Hello, welcome back. We resume the reading of all the Mowgli stories by Rudyard Kipling. Last, we stopped short at this point, and I continue from the exact same sentence. The tiger that killed, he began without any salute, has gone to drink, and now he is asleep under a rock beyond that hill. The person talking is Mowgli. He has come in noiselessly. So noiselessly did he move over the little pebbles that even Gisborne, used to the soft footedness of trackers, started. And Mowgli said, that tiger, the tiger that killed, has gone to drink and is now asleep under a rock beyond that hill. His voice was clear and bell like, utterly different from the usual whine of the native, and his face, as he lifted it, in the sunshine might have been that of an angel strayed among the woods. The widow ceased wailing above the corpse and looked round-eyed at the stranger, returning to her duty with double strength. "Shall I show the Sahib?" he said simply. "If you're sure," Gisborne began. "Sure indeed. I saw him only an hour ago. The dog. It is before his time to eat man's flesh. He has yet a dozen sound teeth in his evil head." The men kneeling above the footprints slunk off quietly for fear that Gisborne should ask him to go with him, and the young man laughed a little to himself. "Come, Sahib," he cried, and turned on his heel, walking before his companion. "Not so fast. I can't keep that pace," said Gisborne. "Halt here. Your face is new to me." "That may be, but I am but newly come into the forest," said Mowgli. "From what village?" asked Gisborne. "I am without a village. I came from over there." He showed his arm towards the forest to the north. "A gypsy, then?" "No, Sahib. I am a man without a caste, and for that matter, without a father." "What do men call you?" "Mowgli, Sahib. And what is Sahib's name?" "I am the warden of this rook, and Gisborne is my name." "How do they number the trees and the blades of grass here?" "Even so, let such gypsy fellows as you set them afire. So, lest gypsy fellows like you should set them afire, they number the trees and the blades of grass. If I would not hurt the jungle for any gift, that is my home," said Mowgli. So when Gisborne says they number the trees, lest gypsy fellows like you will set them afire, Mowgli thought that I will not hurt the jungle for any gift, for this is my home. He turned to Gisborne with a smile that was irresistible and held up a warning hand. "Now, Sahib, we must go a little quietly. There is no need to wake up the dog, though he sleeps heavily enough. Perhaps, wow, perhaps it were better if I went forward alone and drove him downwind to the Sahib. Downwind in so that the Sahib's scent will not reach the tiger. So, Allah, since when have tigers been driven to and fro like cattle by naked men?" said Gisborne, aghast at the man's audacity. He laughed again softly. "No, then come along with me and shoot him in your own way with the big English rifle." Gisborne stepped in the guide's track, twisted, crawled, and climbed and stooped, and suffered through all many agonies of a jungle stalk. He was stark means to go behind chasing after an animal. He was purple and dripping with sweat when Mowgli at the last bade him raise his head and peer over a blue baked rock near a tiny hill pool. By the waterside lay the tiger, extended and at ease, lazily licking clean again an enormous elbow and forepaw. He was old, yellow-toothed, and not a little mangy, means very mangy. But in that setting and sunshine, He was imposing enough. Gisborne had no false idea of sport where the man-eater was concerned. This thing was well meant to be killed as speedily as possible. He waited to recover his breath, rested the rifle on the rock, and whistled. The brute's head turned slowly, not 20 feet from the rifle mouth, and Gisborne planted his shots businesslike, one behind the shoulder and the other a little below the eye. At that range, the heavy bones were no guard against the rending bullets. Well, the skin was not worth keeping at any rate, said he, as the smoke cleared away, and the beast lay kicking and gasping in the last agony. So the tiger was killed, and it was shot through its head and eye, and the skin is damaged, but the skin was not worth it because it was old and mangy. A dog's death for a dog, said Mowgli quietly. Indeed, there is nothing in that carrion worth taking away. That is Mowgli. The whiskers. Do you not take the whiskers? Asked Gisborne, who knew how the rangers valued such things. I am I a lousy shikari of the jungle to paddle with a tiger's muzzle? Let him lie. Here come his friends already. A dropping kite whistled shrilly overhead as Gisborne snapped out the empty shells and wiped his face. And if you are not a shikari, where did you learn your knowledge of the tiger folk? He said. No tracker could have done better. I hate all tigers, said Mowgli curtly. Let the Sahib give me his gun to carry. Arre, it's a very fine one. And where does the Sahib go now? To my house. May I come? I have never yet looked within a white man's house. Gisborne returned to his bungalow, Mowgli striding noiselessly before him, his brown skin glistening in the sunlight. He stared curiously at the veranda and the two chairs there, fingered the split bamboo shade curtains with suspicion, and entered, looking always behind him. Gisborne loosed the curtain to keep out the sun. It dropped with a clatter, but almost before it touched the flagging veranda, Mowgli had leaped clear and was standing with heaving chest in the open. So Mowgli's reflexes were so fast that as he entered the veranda, Gisborne loosed the curtain to keep out the sun, and the curtain clattered down before it could reach the ground of the balcony. Mowgli had leaped out, and he was out in the open, not within the curtain. It is a trap, he said quickly. Gisborne laughed. White men do not trap men, indeed. You altogether you are altogether of the jungle, Gisborne said. I see, said Mowgli. It has neither catch nor fall. I never beheld these things till today. So this curtain is only to cover, whereas the trap in the jungle will fall and get locked, so that the entrapped animal cannot get out. So Mowgli has not seen a curtain like this before. So Gisborne said, we white men do not trap men. Indeed, you are altogether jungling. I see, said Mowgli. This has neither catch nor fall. I never beheld these things till today. He came in on tiptoe and stared with large eyes at the furniture of the two rooms. Abdul Ghaffur, who was laying lunch, looked at him with deep disgust. So much trouble to eat, and so much trouble to lie down after you have eaten, said Mowgli with a grin. We do better in the jungle. It's very wonderful. There are very many rich things there. Is the Sahib not afraid that he may be robbed? I have never seen such wonderful things. He was staring at a dusty Benares brass plate on a rickety bracket. Only a thief from the jungle would rob here, said Abdul Ghaffur, setting down a plate with a clatter. Mowgli opened his eyes wide and stared at the white bearded Mohammedan. In my country, when goats bleat very loud, we cut their throats. He returned cheerfully. But have no fear. I am going. So he turned and disappeared into the rook. Gisborne looked after him with a laugh that ended with a little sigh. There was not much outside his regular work to interest the forest officer, and this son of the forest, who seemed to know tigers as other people know dogs, would have been a diversion. He's a most wonderful chap, thought Gisborne. He's like the illustrations in the classical dictionary. I wish I could have made him a gun boy. There is no fun shikaring alone, and this fellow would have been a perfect shikari. I wonder what in the world he is. That evening he sat on the veranda under the stars, smoking as he wondered. A puff of smoke curled from the pipe bowl. As it cleared, he was aware of Mowgli sitting with arms crossed on the veranda edge. A ghost could not have drifted up more noiselessly. Gisborne started. He started. Suddenly he sat up with a start because it surprised him, shocked him. Gisborne started and let the pipe drop. There is no man to talk to out here in the rook, said Mowgli. I came here, therefore. So Mowgli wanted to talk to a man, so he came to Gisborne's cottage. He picked up the pipe and returned it to Gisborne. Oh, said Gisborne after a long pause. What news is there in the rook? Have you found another tiger? The Nilgai are changing their feeding ground against the new moon, as is their custom. So this is news from the jungle. The Nilgai, that is one type of animal, are changing their feeding ground because of the new moon. So every new moon and full moon, they would move here and move there. So according to their timetable, they are changing their feeding ground against the new moon, as is their custom. The pig are feeding near the Kanye River now because they will not feed with the Nilgai. So because the Nilgai are moving, the pig are moving the other way. And one of their sows has been killed by a leopard in the long grass at the waterhead. So these are the news from the jungle. The Nilgai moving this way, so the pigs are moving the other way, and the the one pig has been killed by the leopard. And how did you know all these things? Said Gisborne, leaning forward and looking at the eyes that glittered in the starlight. How should I not know? The Nilgai has his custom and his use, and a child knows that pig will not feed with him. So these are basic jungle knowledge, wisdom. I did not know this, said Gisborne. Like that, Mowgli made the noise. And you are in charge, so you don't even know that. So the men of the huts tell me, in charge of all the rook, that this Gisborne is in charge of all the rook. And he doesn't know even this. He laughed to himself. It is well enough to talk and to tell child's tales, Gisborne retorted, nettled at the chuckle. To say that this and that goes on in the rook, no man can deny you. As for the sow's carcass, sow is the female pig. I will show you her bones tomorrow, Mowgli returned, absolutely unmoved. Touching the matter of the Nilgai, if the Sahib will sit here very still, I'll drive one Nilgai up to this place, and by listening to the sounds carefully, the Sahib can tell whence that Nilgai has been driven. Mowgli, the jungle has made you mad, said Gisborne. Who can drive Nilgai? Sit still, then I go. So Mowgli went, saying that he will bring the Nilgai, and Gisborne says that is madness. Nobody can drive the Nilgai. So Mowgli vanished, and Gisborne says, God, that man's a ghost because he appears and he vanishes, and nobody becomes aware of it until after. Mowgli had faded out into the darkness, and there was no sound of feet. The rook lay out in great velvety folds in the uncertain shimmer of the stardust, so still that the least little wandering wind among the tree tops came up as the sigh of a child sleeping equably. Abdul Ghaffur in the cookhouse was clicking plates together. "Be still there," shouted Gisborne, and composed himself to listen as a man can who is used to the stillness of the rook. It had been his custom to preserve his self respect in his isolation. That is good reading. It tells about the jungle, how the jungle lives and moves, and how you behave, how you get the wisdom of the jungle. Hmm? A guy has to preserve his self respect in isolation, to dress for dinner each night, and the stiff, quiet shirt front creaked with regular breathing till he shifted a little sideways. Then the tobacco of a somewhat foul pipe began to purr, and he threw the pipe from him. Now, except for the night breath in the rook, everything was still and quiet. From an inconceivable distance, and rolled through immeasurable darkness, came the faint, faint echo of a wolf's howl. Then silence again, for it seemed a long hours. At last, when his legs below his knees had lost all feeling, Gisborne heard something that might have been a crash far off through the undergrowth. He doubted till it was repeated again and yet again. "That's from the west," he muttered. "There's something on foot there." The noise increased, crash on crash, plunge on plunge, with the thick grunting of a hotly pressed Nilgai flying in panic terror and taking no heed to its course. A shadow blundered out from between the tree trunks, wheeled back, turned again grunting, and with a clatter on the bare ground dashed up to almost within reach of his hand. It was a bull Nilgai, dripping with dew, his withers hung with a torn trail of creeper, his eyes shining in the light from the house. The creature checked at the sight of the man and fled along the edge of the rook till he melted in the darkness. The first idea in Gisborne's bewildered mind was the indecency of thus dragging out for inspection the big blue bull of the rook, the putting him through his paces in the night, which should have been his own. Then said a smooth voice at his ear, as he stood staring. He came from the waterhead where he was leading the herd. From the west he came. Does the Sahib believe now, or shall I bring up the herd to be counted? The Sahib is in charge of this rook. So, almost as if he's teasing Gisborne, Mowgli is asking him, "You are in charge of the rook. So, can I bring up the entire herd?" And Gisborne had said, "Who can bring the Nilgai?" And he has brought the head of the herd. Now he says, "Can I bring the everything?" Mowgli had reseated himself on the veranda, breathing a little quickly. Gisborne looked at him with open mouth. "How was that accomplished?" he said. The Sahib saw the bull was driven as a buffalo is. "Oh ho! He will have a fine tale to tell when he returns to the herd." "That is a new trick to me. Can you run as swiftly as the Nilgai then?" "Besides, and you have seen it. If the Sahib needs more knowledge at any time of the movings of the game, I, Mowgli, am here. This is a good roof, and I'll stay." "Stay then, and if you have need of a meal at any time, my servants shall give you meals." "Yes, indeed, I am fond of cooked food," Mowgli answered quickly. "No man may say that I do not eat boiled and roast as much as any other man. I'll come for that meal. Now, on my part, I promise that the Sahib shall sleep safely in his house by night, and no thief shall break in to carry away his so rich treasures." The conversation ended itself on Mowgli's abrupt departure. Gisborne sat long smoking, and the upshot of his thoughts was that in Mowgli he had found at last that ideal ranger and forest guard for whom he and the department were always looking. I must get him into the government service somehow. A man who can drive Nilgai would know more about the rook than 50 men. He's a miracle, a lustrous naturel, but a forest guard must be if he'll only settle down in one place. But a forest guard he must be if he'll only settle down in one place, said Gisborne. Abdul Ghaffur's opinion was less favorable. He confided to Gisborne at bedtime that strangers from God knew where were more likely to be professional thieves, and that he personally did not approve of naked outcasts who had not the proper manner of addressing white people. Gisborne laughed and bade him go to his quarters, and Abdul Ghaffur retreated growling. Later in the night he found occasion to rise up and beat his 13-year-old daughter. Nobody knew the cause of dispute, but Gisborne heard the cry. Through the days that followed, Mowgli came and went like a shadow. He had established himself and his wild housekeeping close to the bungalow, but on the edge of the rook, where Gisborne, going out onto the veranda for a breath of cool air, would see him sometimes sitting in the moonlight, his forehead on his knees, or lying out along the fling of a branch, closely pressed to it, as some beast of the night. Then Mowgli would throw him a salutation and bid him sleep at ease, or descending, would weave prodigious stories of the manners of the beasts in the rook. Once he wandered into the stables and was found looking at the horses with deep interest. That, Abdul Ghaffur pointed out, is sure sign that some day he will steal one. Why, if he lives about this house, does he not take an honest employment? But no, he must wander up and down like a loose camel, turning the heads of fools and opening the jaws of the unwise to folly. So Abdul Ghaffur would give harsh orders to Mowgli when they met, would bid him fetch water and pluck fowls, and Mowgli, laughing unconcernedly, would obey. He has no caste, said Abdul Ghaffur. He will do anything. Look at it, Sahib, that he does not do too much. A snake is a snake, and a jungle gypsy is a thief till the death. Be silent then, said Gisborne. I allow you to correct your own household if there is not too much noise, because I know your customs and use. My custom you do not know. The man is without doubt a little mad. So that is on page 264. I think we should stop because there's quite a bit of a read. Thank you. Bye bye.